Rev up your engines! All right, here we have 2012 Maxima, 230-something thousand miles on it, a lot of miles. But of course, the CVT transmission was replaced with the factory remand unit at like 140,000 miles or so, and that cost about $4 grand. Now he bought it used with only like 40-something thousand miles, and he's put 200,000 miles on it in like 5 years. So aside from him having to fork out $4 grand for the CVT, and the guy at the Nissan dealer told him that was the longest he ever saw one go. It had 140-something thousand miles. You gotta figure that out in these. If you're looking at a used one, yeah, if the tranny's acting up, you'll go for at least 4 or 5 grand less than what they're asking, because you're gonna have to fix that. Now he's done some mods because he likes messing around. It has actual brakes and wheels from a Z car. They actually bolt on, he found out. But, you know, it's a pretty sharp looking car. The question is, how come they're not making them anymore? It's because of the demise of the sedan and the rise of the SUVs. They're everywhere, right? Back in like 92 or so, they sold 163,000 of these Maximas, and they didn't look nearly as cool as this one, right? 2021, they only sold 16,000. So they sold 10 times as many back in the 90s than they do today. People just aren't buying sedans, which to me is kind of a shame, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm not a Nissan fan, as everybody knows, but this is one of the best, pretty much luxury sedans that you can buy that's a sports luxury sedan. They're a scream to drive, and yes, it did have a CVT transmission, and yes, it did brake. That's the downside. You always got to realize that. They're only going to last so long. They can only take so much of a beating. And of course, the stinker was, he paid the 4 grand for the tranny, but it only came with a year warranty, 60,000 more miles ago, and it's still working fine. But the warranty's going, of course. But as we look under the hood, there's the Nissan V6 engine. These are rugged, reliable. It's a modern one, so of course, it's got a timing chain. It doesn't have that stupid rubber timing belt on an interference engine. And I know people are always worried about this one design, is that the timing chain runs the water pump, which is inside the engine. If it breaks, you can get water in the engine, boom, it'll destroy the engine, goodbye engine. Of course, if you hear it rattling or it starts leaking, you immediately want to fix it. But interestingly enough, this thing's got like 230-something thousand miles. It's still got the original water pump on it. So they made them pretty good. I'll give them that. It's almost 300. Stock is 290. So it's got plenty of power. So we'll start her up. Kind of foggy day today. It still has the stock exhaust. OEM replacement mufflers, but makes a nice little sound. 230,000 miles. It's a pretty quiet engine. What you're hearing there is just the fuel injectors. They make a little noise as they age, but it's still got tons of power left. He upgraded with the Z brakes, rotors, and tires and wheels because they fit. Got a really nice interior, lots of leg room, relatively big trunk, and in the winter, up north there, he's got a set of snow tires for all 4 around. The only problem there is he can't go through deep snow because the car's too low to the ground. But he likes the cornering and handling of this car. It is a sports sedan. It's just that sedans aren't popular anymore. Everybody wants an SUV. But believe me, if you're a serious driver, you drive something like this, and then go get one of these $80,000, $90,000 SUVs, you're going to be disappointed with the SUV because they, of course, do not handle like this. They just don't. It's lower to the ground. It's got a nice suspension system on them. These are fun cars to drive. And in his case, he bought the car for 14 grand and he's put almost 200,000 miles on it. So he's certainly getting his money's worth out of the thing. Other than that CVT transmission that he had to be replaced. But of course, that's the weakness with Jatco front wheel drive transmissions. If you saw the video I made the other day on the Nissan Frontier that was 4x4, he still had the original transmission that shifted like a dream. The trucks used a different style of transmission, and his wasn't a CVT transmission. I'm still not a fan of Nissan CVT transmissions. They're making them better than they used to, but then again, they used to make them really crappy, so this one showed it crapped out on it. That's the one thing you gotta worry about on these. That's why you can get a decent price on a used one, even today, because everybody knows the transmissions are weak and that's going to make the value of the car go down. In his case, it cost him $4,000 to have a factory reman unit put in. What the heck? Goes good now. He's just hoping that the warranty's gone, that it's not going to break again, but, you know, crap happens. And think about it. Even if 2-3 years from now it broke. So if he paid another $4,000 and replaced it, hey, beats the heck out of buying the average new car these days, which is about $46,000. So that's 10 transmissions, huh? Layout with the tach, speedometer, got the FMA on. Since it's older, it does have a CD player. It's got satellite on it. The AC still works. And, of course, it's an old style backup camera. It works. It's not side and all that stuff on it, but it's got a backup camera. Full sunroof. All but the leather seats are still in really good shape. Even the armrests, they often wear out. This one doesn't. And even though it's a CVT transmission, it has these paddle shifters. Now, for a fast car like this, 26 miles a gallon on the highway, that's the best you're going to expect. It's not a complete gas hog. In town, it sort of is. It's about 16 in town. But, you know, it's not bad. So let's take it for a spin. Now it's low to the ground and it handles well. And being low to the ground, you're going to feel bumps here and there. That's what people have to understand. Especially with these fancy wheels and tires, you're going to feel the bumps a little bit more, but it's going to handle a lot better. If you're the type of person that is more into the ride than the handling, you would not put these Z tires and rims on them. You go back to the stock ones. He even admits with the snow tires, it rides a lot smoother. Because, of course, snow tires aren't low profile. It's smooth acceleration, and it's funny because it does have paddle shifters, but it's a CVT transmission. So all that stuff is fake. It makes you feel like you're shifting. You aren't. It does not have gears, and you're not shifting gears. So really, put in drive and drive it. It's fun enough. Even the owner laughed at the paddle shifters. What's this about? But I guess since it's a sports sedan, they want to give it a sports look. Just leave it and drive. Works perfectly fine. It's a foggy day, but really, there, you can see. It looks very beachy. It's blue and beachy, but it's gray in the real world. Now you consider the guy's put almost 200,000 miles on it since he's bought it in 5 years. He did have to pay the $4,000 for the transmission, but even at that, he's getting his money's worth out of the car. With an average new car being $45,000, he's got less than 20 in this, and he's put 200,000 miles on the thing, and it still runs like it is today. Really smooth. That one problem here, sometimes hits bumps, the alternator light comes on, and he just had an alternator put on, which is a real pain in the butt. You gotta take the air conditioner off. So let's see what's going on there. We're gonna test it out, but I noticed that's a little loose, so we'll tighten that up first. Always make sure you got a tight connection. It's tight now. That's tight. That's tight. Increase the speed to 2,500 RPM. So rev it up for 5 seconds. You can see it's totally normal. The diode rip is normal. Everything is normal. And if you notice, the charging light is off now. Test shows it's working perfectly fine, but now the battery light is off. The battery light is only supposed to come on when you're not charging enough. Now, as nutty as it sounds, that one loose connection could have caused the whole thing. If his light doesn't come on anymore, it was just because the battery terminal was loose. Realize one thing, this is one of those lead battery terminals. Guess what lead does? It stretches over time. So, you gotta retighten them every once in a while. That's why most Toyotas, including this Matrix, they don't use lead. They use copper, they use steel. You gotta spray them to keep them clean so they don't corrode. But you don't have the hassle of you got to retighten lead. Now, lead is good because it conducts electricity great. So there's nothing wrong with using it. But realize, if they're lead, you got to tighten them up every once in a while because lead's soft, it's vibration, and it'll get loose. Well, he'll tell us later if the light ever comes back on. But it's charging, and after tightening that up, shows everything's working fine, but it was just that loose terminal. So here's a beautiful Maxima, even though it's got 233,000 miles, still runs quite well. It's a shame that they're not going to be making them anymore, but sedans are kind of fading away, and everything is going to SUVs. If you're thinking about getting one, my advice, do it sooner than later. He only paid 14 grand for the car, 40,000 miles on it. Hey, you're not going to be finding things like that anymore. And as time goes on, they'll probably go higher and higher. So it's just a shame they got the CVT transmissions. There's guys out there and they'll swap standard transmissions in them because a lot of the Z parts fit perfectly fine. And they'll put in a 6-speed standard transmission, and it's a real screamer of a car. Now, you know the truth about Nissan Maxima. They're going away. They're not going to be making them anymore. And their height was in the 90s when they sold 163,000 in 1 year. Last year, they only sold 16,000, 1/10 the amount. But that doesn't mean they're bad cars, other than the CVT transmissions. But then again, it did go 143,000 miles before it crapped out. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.